Well, I don't think you want to see my personal photos. Most of you know what this picture is, right? No. 1942, the Battle of Los Angeles. UFO comes over Los Angeles, and the military decides it's to bring all its spotlights out there because World War II had just started, and they're firing. They fired 1,400 rounds of anti-aircraft at this object. And this object was in the air for about 5 hours. This is an actual photograph taken by an LA Times photographer.
The lights, the way it's there.
Yeah, can we, somebody turn the lights down a little bit?
Front lights especially.
Was there any theory about why that ship was there in LA in 42?
Well, I can tell you oops. Before we get that up.
Yeah.
The military said it was a balloon. Yeah, weather balloon. I just want to briefly go over the press conference. As Paula said, on September 27th, 7 of us, ex-Air Force, all stationed at nuclear weapons bases, gave testimony. We all signed affidavits, and we all spoke in front of the national press, the National Press Club. We organized this, just Robert Hastings, who wrote the book UFOs and Nukes, and I organized this a little about 9 months ago. We just decided to do it. We didn't have any money to do it with, but luckily we got contributions from the public. It was a real grassroots effort, and it was very successful, I think. We got CNN to broadcast it live, and we got a lot of requests for interviews after that, and so I think it was a very successful event. We basically told the Air Force that they were lying to the public about national security issues involving UFOs. Later on in my presentation, I'll show you the current Air Force policy on UFOs, and I'll point that out at that time, but they say that no UFO incident has ever resulted in a national security event. But as you'll see, the shutdown of 20 missiles is certainly a national security event. So I'll be glad to answer any more questions you have about the press conference later on. If you just kind of hold your questions until the end, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I'll just go ahead and get started. We'll go through this. We'll talk about my incident and a couple other things. So just starting, as Paula said, this was a secret. This incident was a secret, so I'm going to give you guys a secret briefing. You all look like you can hold a secret, right? And we understand the importance of military secrets, but this is a phenomenon that affects all of us. And so we've all got a right to know. Everybody on the planet has a right to know about this. To achieve government disclosure on this issue, we all need to understand the truth and speak of things that are basically phenomenal. This is a phenomenon I don't think anybody understands completely. Many of you have had experiences. I've had this experience, but I certainly can't explain everything that happened. So it is a phenomenon. I just want to give you a short biography of myself so you'll know a little bit about me. I graduated from the Air Force Academy in '64, assigned a missile launch officer in '66, master's in engineering. Worked on the Titan III program in propulsion engineering. Resigned from the Air Force in 1971. That was my way of protesting the Vietnam War. Worked in aerospace for 24 years in FAA aircraft certification and structures, aircraft structures. I got a master's in education, wanted to be a teacher, became a math teacher, and now I'm tutoring math. So here's your security briefing. I'm going to present my testimony and supporting evidence, and I clearly demonstrate that the government is involved in a cover-up of the UFO phenomenon, in this case, and also worldwide. I'm going to show the relationship with nuclear weapons and appeal for action. A little bit about the Minuteman I system. It's a three-stage solid fuel rocket. Of course, it's got a nuclear warhead. Missile launch personnel on duty. There are two of us in the capsule underground. I'm going to show you a picture of that. We've got total control over the missiles, including launch capability. And then we had 4 to 6 security guards upstairs. The security guards were, of course, to protect the launch control facility and also to send out to the launch facilities in case there was an incursion out there. And the national security environment in 1967, we were involved in Vietnam. We were involved in the Cold War. In 1962, the missiles, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it was the first time the Minuteman I came online. And so it was a tense environment in 1967 internationally. The reason I bring that up is because some people have suggested that this might have been an Air Force exercise, but I'll show reasons why it wasn't. Malmstrom Air Force Base is right outside of Great Falls, Montana, about the middle of the state. These little dots here are where launchers. The missiles are actually located. Where it says like I-1, D-1, that's the launch control facility. Those are the bigger dots. And we're going to talk about Echo flight and Oscar flight. You'll see the E-1 out there and the O-1. Oscar is near Roy, Montana, and Echo is up there a little north of it. This is what the launch control facility looks like, cut away. This is about 60 feet underground. Our cabling systems are underground. Cables that go to each of the missiles independently. We had a guard shack up there, and like I said, 4 to 6 guards. We went down an elevator and then got locked into this concrete capsule with a lot of equipment that was air conditioned. By the way, it was none of this stuff we have today. It was, and so it was a little cool down there. But there were 2 of us down there. We were down there for 24 hours, and we got relieved the next morning. Then this is the front gate. I'll be talking about that front gate. This is the commander's console. It's an array of lights for each missile. The top lights normally green, green status, go status. Missiles are ready to launch. And then if they went into that second light, they would be unlaunchable, what we call no-go. And of course, we had, I won't talk about the rest of it too much. We had radio equipment and communications equipment. This is the deputy console. These are arming switches for each of the missiles. This is what the launch facility looks like. We had support buildings and maintenance areas in here to work on the nose cone. The first incident I'm going to talk about is the one at Minot Air Force Base in August of '66. UFO came over. Actually, it says here there were 2 round objects, various colors. They red, green, yellow, white. The object traveled very slowly back and forth, up and down. It was tracked by radar from 100,000 feet down to 4,000 feet, 3.5 hours. It disrupted communications in the missile system. This was Minot Air Force Base in '66. This was a sketch that an airman made of the object he saw. I don't know if you can read this. First object was in front of a cloud. The color of the object sequentially changed from red to white to green, although the light seemed to radiate from the back of the object. So this was a little sketch. This was from a Blue Book file. I'll skip through this. You guys know a lot about this. They can be any color: red, orange, blue, white, pulsating, rotating, multicolored lights. At times, emissions of a light beam, and many shapes: oval, round, triangular, egg, star shapes. And sometimes they're invisible, and sometimes they just appear. So a lot of this we cannot explain. So here again, this is Minot incident. UFO climbed altitude after hovering for 15 minutes. It did disrupt communications, radio contact, and so this is a pretty well documented case. This is from Great Falls Tribune. It shows some of the reports of UFOs in the area. And this is dated February of the 11th, '67. And you see there's a write-up here, another one here. The reason I brought that up is because after I went public, this is one of the first guys that contacted me, Don Crawford. Actually, we did the sightings program. I don't know if any of you saw that. This was way back in '96 or '97, I think. And Don Crawford was in that program. But he talks about an object, a UFO, being reported to him while he was on duty at Echo Flight. And he gave the guard permission to fire on it, but the guard said, I don't think it would do any good. So first, we'll talk about the Echo Flight incident. On duty was Captain Eric Carlson and Lieutenant Walter Fiegel. These gentlemen are both still alive and well, as far as I know. I've got letters from Mr. Carlson, and I've got an audio recording of Walt Fiegel when I first contacted him. He's given me permission to use the audio recording, and he backs this story up. Actually, he was here in Denver when I gave the presentation in 2007 to the International MUFON Conference. He sat in the front row when I went through this presentation, and he said, yeah, that's the way it happened. So, well, maintenance and security crews were on site at two of the launch facilities. They had stayed overnight, and what happened is Eric was on duty in the early morning. One of the missiles shut down. He calls out there and says, what are you guys doing? You're not supposed to shut our missiles down until we give you the authority to do that and start your maintenance tasks. Well, they said they didn't do anything. And by the way, there's this UFO overhead. So right after that, all 10 missiles went no-go and shut down, while UFOs were observed overhead by the crews, by the maintenance and security crews. And like I said, I've got, this is verified by Eric, by Walter Fiegel. That's his picture. And here's his statement. When the first one went down and I talked to security out there, they reported this UFO hovering over the site. I said, yeah, right, what are you guys drinking? We sent strike teams to both the sites that had been occupied. I told them to get within a mile of the site and report in. They both reported that they and two maintenance crews and two security troops all on site reporting UFOs. at the sites. Now this is where I was, Oscar flight, March 24th, 1967. First I got a call, and again this was in the evening, dark. I don't know exactly what time. First call, they said, sir, we've been seeing some strange lights out here, making weird maneuvers. They're flying very fast, making a sudden stop and reversing direction, making 90-degree turns, not making any noise. They're not airplanes. I just kind of discounted this. I didn't know what to think, although these guys usually didn't call me unless there was, some official report. So I kind of discounted that, and then I got a call about 5 minutes later. This time, the security guard is screaming into the phone. He's obviously frightened. He's saying, we're looking out at, he's got all the guards out there, their weapons out, and he said that we're looking out at the front gate, and here we're seeing a glowing red object, oval shaped, about 30 feet long, pulsating red, orange, and he was scared to death, wanted me to tell him what to do. I didn't quite know what to say. I think I told him, make sure nothing comes inside the perimeter fence. So, that's an easy out for me, right? So we had to hang up. I went over to talk to my commander, Fred Mywald, who was taking a rest break, and started to tell him about these phone calls. I didn't get too far into the talk, and then our missiles started going no-go. We got bells and whistles going off. All those lights turned from green to red while this object was still up there. I want to emphasize that these guys upstairs have no controls over these missiles. There's no way they could have perpetrated a hoax of any kind. We had all the controls downstairs. We queried the system. We had a way of asking the system what was wrong. We were getting guidance and control system failure and logic coupler failure. Logic coupler is part of the guidance computer for the warhead. So we reported the command post, and then I vividly remember my commander turning to me and saying the same thing happened at another flight. So at first I thought what he meant was that it happened that night, but it wasn't until many years later I realized that it had happened a week earlier. The command post, of course, sent out maintenance teams. So the maintenance teams were out there trying to bring these missiles back up on alert. What they had to do was to reorient the missile or the guidance package so that it was properly targeted. So this was an involved procedure. When we were relieved the next day, there were still maintenance teams out there working on the missiles. First thing I did is go upstairs and had that guy stand at attention and say, "Are you sure what you told me was the truth?" And he assured me of that, and I believed him. The problem was that I was never able to talk to him again because we were ordered back to see the squadron commander. I walked into his office. He was white as a sheet. This was an old World War II B-17 pilot, fought World War II, and he was white as a sheet. I said, "What the heck happened? Was this some kind of an Air Force exercise?" He assured me it was not an Air Force exercise. And then there was a gentleman from AFOSI, Air Force Office of Special Investigation, who was also in the room. And all he wanted us to do, he really didn't care to hear our story. And he just wanted me to sign a paper that said I would never talk about this again. So I did. I kind of complained about it because we already had a top secret briefing, top secret clearance, but he still wanted me to sign this non-disclosure statement about this particular incident. So I've asked the Air Force to come after me, but they've refused so far. I've violated my security oath. So we were at Oscar flight. We lost. This is Fred Mywald. He was again the commander in the capsule. I just want to say something about Fred Mywald. He retired as a full colonel. He was actually base commander of Offutt Air Force Base. As any of you know, Offutt Air Force Base is headquarters of Strategic Air Command before he retired. So this is the kind of witnesses we're talking about. And he has backed me up. We were at Oscar flight when we lost missiles in rapid succession. Topside security notified the mobile team to report observing UFO while responding at my direction to an outlying LF. Yeah, I forgot to mention we had security violation lights, and so I sent guards out to check those launch facilities out, and they saw the object out there again over the launch facilities, and it scared the heck out of them. So they lost radio while they were out there, and a lot of them didn't want to come back to those duties. This is a statement of Robert Jameson. He was one of the witnesses we had in Washington, D.C. on the 27th. And excuse me, he was targeting officer. He went out to the Oscar missiles to bring them back up on alert status. And this is from his affidavit. I don't show the whole affidavit. Believe me, he signed it. Upon arriving, MIMS is the Missile Maintenance Squadron hangar. Even before reporting the job control, I overheard other targeting team personnel discussing rumors of UFO connection at Oscar flight. All 10 missiles went down at Oscar. So Robert Jameson is another confirming witness for my particular incident. And again, he told this to the national press. So here I am. I couldn't talk about this. I couldn't even talk to any of the participants, the guards, after that morning, even though they called me at home, begged me to come and see them and talk to them about what they had seen, because they couldn't understand it. And I had to deny them that. I told them I couldn't do it. And so I didn't talk about this. In 1994, I was in a bookstore in Seattle, picked up a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy Good. And on page 301 of that book, I noticed a short paragraph talking about missiles being shut down at Malmstrom Air Force Base in 1967. I kind of got excited because I thought that was my incident, and maybe the Air Force declassified it. So I went home. I contacted MUFON in Seattle and asked Jim Klotz, who's a co-author of my book, to submit FOI requests, Freedom of Information Act requests to the Air Force about this incident. Don't say anything about UFOs. Just say, ask about this incident where 10 missiles shut down for strange reasons. The Air Force wrote back and said, this is classified, but since it's been so long and since you've asked, we're going to declassify it. And we didn't say anything about UFOs. So they did. They declassified the Echo flight incident. That's the one that happened on March 16th. And they started sending me documents. This is one of the documents they sent me. It's a telex from SAC headquarters to various Air Force offices. And again, it talks about all 10 missiles in Echo flight being disabled within 10 seconds of each other, and for unknown reasons. And then I highlighted this one also. This is part of that telex. The fact that no apparent reason for the loss of 10 missiles can be readily identified as cause for grave concern to this headquarters. We must have an in-depth analysis to determine cause and corrective action, and we must know as quickly as possible impact to the fleet. So here again, this was not an Air Force exercise. The Air Force could not explain why these missiles went down. I just want to point out here how the Air Force tried to pull a fast one on us. This is that telex I just showed you on the right-hand side, and this is another copy we got from another Air Force office. We were sending FOI requests to different offices. This one has, what I've got highlighted here, reference to initial telex, initial telegram, notifying everybody of the shutdown. And here you see they've whitewashed that out. So they didn't want me, apparently from this, they didn't want us to know that there was a previous telegram. And we'll go into that in a minute. Another document we got was what's called it was a quarterly history of the wing document. It just talks about what's going on with the wing, reporting to SAC headquarters. And during this period of January to the end of March '67, this was part of the document we got. Rumors of UFO around the area of Echo flight during the time of the fault were disproven. I don't know how you disprove a rumor. But that's what it said. I'll go on that a little later too. This is again from a Blue Book file. It's we refer to as the Belt Incident. Truck driver driving towards Great Falls, Montana, on Highway 87, goes up to Belt Hill. Belt's a little town just outside of Great Falls. He looks to his left. He keeps driving, and he notices this light that's not following him, but going the same speed as he is as he's going down the road. So he stops his truck. The light stops, and goes down into a gully. The truck driver gets out, calls the highway patrol. Highway patrol sends a patrolman out there. Bud Nader arrives there. They're both looking down this gully, and they're both looking at this object. So Bud Nader validated this truck driver's sighting. This is reported to the Air Force. The Air Force goes in panic mode because it so happens that the Condon Committee is doing their investigation of UFOs at this particular time, and they don't want too much information coming out. This is David Gamble. He's the one that authored that unit history report, and we wrote him a letter and asked him about these reports of UFO being disproven, and he said he doesn't recall that he interviewed anybody. He's the one that wrote the report, by the way. He doesn't recall interviewing anybody. What he does recall is that at times sections of the history were scrutinized and changes beyond editorial were made. Beyond editorial. This is also part of that unit history report. I just wanted to point this out. This is kind of a summary of internal Air Force investigation. There was also a Boeing investigation that was going on about this. The logic coupler was studied by the investigative team in an effort to identify the method by which Versa 9 and 12 Versa is the voice reporting system, where we find out what's wrong with the system. The opinion of the team was that external generated signals caused the generation of these two channels and the shutdown of the launch facilities. The possibility of this is very remote due to the fact that all 10 couplers would have to fail in the flight within a few seconds of each other. In other words, these missiles are independent. They have independent cabling systems going to them. So what are the chances of this particular failure mode happening to all 10 missiles within seconds of each other from an internally generated signal? Well, Air Force said it wasn't internally generated, it was an externally generated signal. And the possibility of this is very remote. Robert Kaminsky was one of the first people that contacted me after I went on the Art Bell show. And he headed up the Boeing team that investigated the Echo flight shutdowns. And he wrote me a letter saying nothing significant. The team could find nothing significant to explain what happened at Echo flight. They went on to write their report. And as they were writing the report, he was told by his boss, Don Peterson, that this was a UFO event and that the Air Force wanted them to stop further effort on this project. And again, I want to emphasize that at this time, the Condon investigation was in full gear. And so they were told not to submit a final engineering report. Most unusual for an Air Force contractor to be told this. Okay, I've been talking about the Condon study. Most of you know about the Condon study, right? And after a congressional hearing in 1966, which, by the way, Gerald Ford was instigating because of the sightings in Michigan in 1966, and one of the other congressmen was a man by the name of Donald Rumsfeld. Anyway, they decided to set up this committee of engineers to investigate the UFO question. They gave the University of Colorado, which is here, I understand, $500,000 to investigate UFOs and put Dr. Edward Condon in charge. The final report was a whitewash of the UFO subject, and it was intended to end inquiries into UFOs, so the Air Force would have to respond to all the questions they were getting from the public. And the Air Force still uses the Condon report as a main reason to dismiss UFOs. This is a report to Dr. Condon of the March 24th UFO incident. Again, they couldn't keep this secret because it was all over the Great Falls Tribune's newspapers, and it was a well-documented case. So Colonel Chase, who was the operations officer at Malmstrom Air Force Base, had to respond to Dr. Condon about this. Colonel Chase was also working with Dr. Condon on his investigation of UFOs. That brings us to Dr. Roy Craig. He was a member of the Condon Committee. He was in, there's his ID card. Dr. Roy Craig worked here at the University of Colorado. He was basically a chemist. I think he was a chemistry professor. But he was part of the Condon Committee. He was one of their chief investigators. He never had any investigative experience. But he heard about the Echo flight incident soon after it happened from Ray Fowler. Some of you may know that name, Ray Fowler. Ray Fowler had heard about it from his people because Ray Fowler was working for Sylvania at the time. Sylvania had a contract with the Air Force on the Minuteman system, electrical systems. And Fowler was also working for NICAP. He was part of NICAP, and was asked to participate with the Condon investigation. So he told Craig about this. And in August of 67, Roy Craig visited Fowler and got the information about the Echo shutdown and the Oscar shutdown, I believe. So he visited Malmstrom in October of 67, and I'll go through this real quick here. I call it the big fix. So August 66, he awarded the contract. By the way, Condon in 1944 resigned from the Manhattan Project.
Wow.
Actually, he was forced out. He couldn't get along with Oppenheimer. Yeah. And in 1946, the FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, in an official memo, declared Condon to be a Soviet espionage agent. I've got the memo. I can show it to you. So March 67, missiles shut down. March 24th, the Belt sighting. Colonel Chase sends a report to Condon. In June of 67, Condon asked for all what he called UFO officers at different bases. He identified officers to work with on the UFO question. They had a big meeting. July 67, Colonel Chase sends a letter to Foreign Technology Division, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, because they had asked about, because they had heard missiles being shut down during this UFO incident in March 24th. He sends them a letter saying, no UFO incident, forget about it. Yeah. Colonel Chase had his own significant incident in 57, and he was debriefed by AFOSI, which hid the incident from Blue Book. What we found out was that Blue Book had secret files on UFO cases, not just the public files that everybody hears about and has access to, but there were secret files, and his was one of them. And we found this out from notes of Dr. Roy Craig, which we have access to now. So in 67, Condon investigator Roy Craig learns of UFO-related shutdowns at Malmstrom. In October, he visits Malmstrom. Chase tells him no connection with UFOs. And by the way, our report on the investigation is classified. You guys can't see it. That's true. He said, if you want to see this report, you'll have to go through Washington, D.C. and talk to this Colonel Hippler. And it turns out that Robert Lowe, who was Condon's deputy, was the only person on the Condon committee that could see classified Air Force reports. And Lowe never followed up on it. And I've got this as a note from Dr. University of Arizona, his name. But anyway, I've got a record of that too, that Lowe never followed up on looking at this classified report of the investigation. I've got all this written up on my website, spiralgalaxy.org. If you want to read the whole Air Force cover-up scenario in detail, you can go to my website and read it there. Here's a fact sheet. Current U.S. Air Force policy, even though it's dated 07, this is current. And what the Air Force says, again, they discontinued UFO investigations because of the Condon Committee, said there was nothing much to it. And also, this statement here, no UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force is ever an indication of threat to our national security. And this is where we Us 7 that went this Washington D.C. Said this is a lie. This is basically a lie because all of us witnesses have signed our names to affidavits stating that these things happen. These are national security incidents, and so we're not going to let this drop. We want the Air Force to answer to this. I'll skip over this. These are other accounts, Jameson's we've already talked about. This was an interesting one. I'll just briefly go over this. One of the maintenance guys that was retarding the Echo flight missiles went down into the tube, started going through his checklist to bring the missile back up on alert. The ladder, the guard upstairs shook the ladder. He goes up the ladder, and here's the guards pointing like this, scared to death. He's pointing at this orange ball of light that's hovering over the site. This guy, and he won't let me release his name yet, maybe someday, says he looked at the ball of light, and for some reason he felt he had to go back and complete his checklist. So he goes back down the ladder, goes through his checklist to bring the missile back up on alert. He gets to a certain point, and the missile shuts down again. Well, he starts over, goes through the same thing, shuts down again at that particular point on the checklist. He went over this many times. He said it would shut down at the same time. And while this object was still up there, he could feel the energy, the electricity in the air coming right down the tube, he said. Fantastic story. This guy's a very credible witness, by the way. He's highly placed in an aerospace company, and that's why he doesn't want to come open right now. I know from another witness that up until at least 1972, the Air Force was still trying to figure out why Echo flight shut down. We'll skip that. Skip that. These are two other ex-Air Force airmen that have come forward and again are supporting UFOs at Echo flight. So, in summation, I think we've got a pretty strong case. We've got documents, we've got witness testimony, we've got audio testimony, we've got affidavits. I think in a court of law, we would have a good case. And I think we've shown that 20 missiles were disabled while UFOs of unknown origin were observed by many Air Force personnel. So, no valid cause was ever determined. Extensive investigation is proof that this was not an Air Force exercise. We have shown through eyewitness accounts that these are intelligently controlled objects of unknown origin. We didn't have anything in 1967, believe me, that could send a signal, a very specific signal, through 60 feet of earth and concrete, penetrate triply shielded cables, and send a direct signal to each of the missiles. And I don't think we've got that even today. So this was obviously kind of a technology that was not Earth-based. We think the Air Force is lying to us. These are other incidents, similar incidents. Notice I've got Francis E. Warren, 2010. Maybe. I don't know. Most of you maybe have heard about 50 missiles going down at Francis E. Warren last weekend for unknown reasons, and the Air Force says nothing to worry about. These are documented cases. Again, there's documentation on these other cases that are similar, although I don't think any of them resulted in missile shutdowns. But and of course the Bentwater case. I wanted to mention the Bentwater case because again, the UFO comes over Colonel Halt was also one of our witnesses at Washington, D.C., and he does mention that it projected a beam of light over the weapons storage area, and nuclear weapons were stored there. I can also name the Aviano, Italy case in the late 70s, I think it was 77. A UFO flies over and simply shines a beam of light on the weapons storage area. Again, this was a NATO base. Nuclear weapons were stored there. So this brings me to my kind of summation. Okay, I mentioned Aviano, 87. Message from the cosmos. Get rid of the nuclear weapon. Let me just finish, and I've got it. You hear that? No?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Right now, U.S. arsenal about 10,000 nuclear weapons. Destructive power of each is about 300 kilotons to 1.5 megatons. TNT, approximately 27,000 worldwide.
Wow.
This is H-bomb explosion. The existence of nuclear weapons promotes, I believe, the proliferation of more nuclear weapons and is preparation for nuclear war. What other reason do we have them, really, except to prepare for nuclear war? We will, let's see, this is from Vladimir Putin, stating that they're going to keep improving their nuclear deterrence. Under the Bush administration, I know this was a policy. This is preemptive nuclear strike policy. Take pre-incident actions to prevent adversary nuclear weapons employment. This is a joint military publication on for the military. So this background is a picture of the city of Denver, and I got this from the website of let's see, what's it called? Anyway, this is the city of Denver, and this would be the damage done from a 350 kiloton nuclear bomb. This is the smallest bomb we've got, the smallest, 350 kilotons. The bomb at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 15 to 20 kilotons of TNT, 15 to 20, 350 kilotons. Blue circle, intense heat from the explosion. Caused fires, red circle, I'm sorry. The blue circle, most homes and buildings completely destroyed. And the orange circle, I guess it's orange circle, moderate damage. So we're risking human existence. We face premature extinction. Message from ET. We're here, and we implore you to eliminate your nuclear weapons as a threat to yourselves. I don't think nuclear deterrence is a solution to anything. It just causes people to spend more money on developing nuclear weapons. And this is a kind of something that Oppenheimer said, it's not for us to believe that history has shown we cannot unite in this effort to accomplish the elimination of nuclear weapons. I'm paraphrasing Oppenheimer on his last day as head of the Manhattan Project. Now, I talked about our press conference. And again, there's my website if you want to see the actual affidavits of our witnesses. They're all on my website. And if you'd like to help, let's see. Write to your congressman. write to newspaper editors, talk about this, my case and other cases, and all the numerous reports that are out. Write to the Secretary of the Air Force, demand answers. If nothing else, about the 50 missiles that went down to Francis E. Warren. Okay, so I've got a final question for you. You think, have we got time for this?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
You think E.T. believes in God? Well, I don't know if this will answer it, but this is interesting. This is a video I got when I spoke down in Peru. Somebody handed me this video, and it's I didn't see it till I got home, and it's really kind of startling. So we'll just play this. Let me just explain. This was a Catholic service going on inside a basketball court area, and this amateur video photographer had a small camera, and he was filming the service, and he happened to pan up. You see the windows up here. He happened to pan up to one of those windows, and there's this UFO right there by the window, and it's really quite a good video of the UFO, and then he goes outside after the service, and it's still there, and he tries to focus on it, and it's just a great video.
Ya le tomé foto y va a ser rico.
Oye, mira, weón.
Conchazo, baja un poco, baja un poco. Qué emoción, weón.
Mira, weón, mira, Ronnie, mira, mira acá, mira acá.
Concha su madre. No veo nada, weón. Ahí. Jorge, es el trípode,
No, weón, es mal.
Por eso, pues el trípode que necesitamos. Carajo. Puta, se quitó. No,
Ahí está, mira acá.
Cálmate, tío, cálmate, por favor.
¡Puta madre!
Vamos a ser ricos, weón.
Toma.
Puta, tío, somos la cagada, weón.
¿Qué carajo es esa weá?
Puta, son seres extraterrestres, idiotazo, ¿qué más que? Está acercando, ¿no? Ahí nomás, ahí. Puta, es una esfera, weón. Ahí. No, un poco más cerca.
Tráeme otro cassette. Está en la bolsa de la Hannibal. Está en la bolsa de la Hannibal, la tiene Toño. Ha entrado.
At any rate, that's my presentation for now.
Thank you.